Hello and welcome. It's really nice to see so many people signed up to this event. I am Claire Hughes and I'm the HR Manager at Ashton's Legal. Just over 6 years ago now, we were approached by Sarah Jane Legg, who you will see today, who was working for us and she wanted to qualify as a solicitor. We looked at various options available to her. One thing she was reluctant to do was go back into full-time education and ideally wanted to train whilst working. Having looked at the options available and being aware of the new Trailblazer Apprenticeship, Sarah Jane decided the Apprentice Solicitor route would be ideal for her. As you may well know, Sarah Jane was one of the first solicitor cohorts to qualify via the Apprentice Solicitor route. Over the last few years, we have enrolled a number of other individuals onto that apprenticeship. As a business, we are always looking for talented and passionate individuals to join our firm, and we regularly attend careers fairs with schools and local colleges. During those events, it became apparent to us that not much is known about the Apprentice Solicitor route, and we really wanted to give people more information on it as an alternative route to qualify as a solicitor. In today's webinar, James Tarling, our CEO, is going to tell you a bit more about what it's actually like to work as a solicitor and a bit more about Ashton's Legal. Sarah Jane will talk to you about the Solicitor Apprenticeship and the practicalities of it. Then there will be a chance for you to ask any questions you have on the apprenticeship to Sarah Jane, one of our current solicitor apprentices, Alex. Finally, our recruitment advisor, Sally, will talk to you about the applications process.
It's really putting the client at the centre of what we're doing and looking at what matters to them and really caring about the outcomes. All of our clients are individuals or businesses and they have different requirements, and we need to really get to know them and understand what it is that they need and what their requirements are. So for our business clients, we'll spend time getting out to meet them, going to their premises, really understanding what they do and how they do it and what matters to them.
Ashton's immediately kind of got interested in the business that we were starting and kind of understood that there wouldn't be a lot of structure to the relationship in the early days. We're constantly having new companies arriving into the incubator with different needs at different stages of their own development. And so the kind of nature of the relationship is, if you like, being on hand for quick advice around emerging issues.
For our individual clients, we like to get to know them. There are no wrong questions to be asking when you're first engaging with a lawyer. The important thing is to find someone that connects with you and shows an interest and is able to listen. Finding out about your background, finding out about what matters to you and finding out about what it is that you want to achieve.
It was a completely new step for my mum, and Ashtons were able to be there and set her at ease through the challenging step that she was going to go through. Everyone was there on her side and could be asked questions and put her mind at rest.
So for us, we have our core values of leadership, teamwork, communication and respect. And I think that they really cut through who we are as a business and the way that we work with each other. The situations that clients often need to speak to their lawyers are very often very stressful backgrounds to those. And so I'd hope that after coming to see our lawyers, they'll go away feeling reassured that there's someone that cares and that someone that knows how to lead them through the process.
I can't believe it. Ben was so lovely. He knew what I was going through.
You couldn't get better service.
Yeah.
Everything felt comfortable. We told every step of the way what was happening. Can't say enough.
Hello, so I'm James Tarling. I'm the CEO of Ashton's, and just briefly to introduce myself. So I'm a solicitor. I've been practicing as a solicitor for quite a long time now, and I moved over into management and became the CEO of Ashton's earlier this year. I'm a corporate lawyer by background, and I became a solicitor through what we refer to later as the traditional route, soon to be, I suspect, the old-fashioned route to qualifying as a solicitor, in that I did my A-levels, I went to university and did a law degree, and I did the 1-year postgraduate qualification of the legal practice course before undertaking a 2-year training contract. But there are now loads of different ways that people can qualify as solicitors. to really open up the profession to different ways to access. And tonight, I know we're talking about apprentices. But I thought I'd start by just talking briefly about what is a solicitor, because I know certainly from my own position when I was in sixth form, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't really know very much about being a lawyer. None of my family were lawyers. I didn't know any lawyers. I think I'd seen lawyers on TV, and I thought it sounded like a good idea. So what is a solicitor? The Law Society, which is our professional body, describes a solicitor's role as to represent and defend clients' legal interests and provide advice. So as solicitors, we act in all sorts of different ways. There might be criminal solicitors who are advising people that have been arrested, people dealing with criminal prosecutions against them. We have solicitors dealing with disputes through the courts, albeit very often, very little of what we do actually ends up in the courts. There's a lot more work in resolving disputes before we get to the courts. Solicitors are often dealing with what we'd refer to as non-contentious matters, where there isn't a dispute at all. It might be that we're helping someone sell their business or enter a new business contract. It might be that we're working with an individual to prepare their wills, advise them on administering an estate, buying a house, so forth. Lots of different areas that solicitors work in. But there are lots of other lawyers out there, some of which you'll probably be familiar with. There's barristers. These are the people you'll see often in court, wearing the wigs and the gowns, and their role traditionally and typically is representing a client's case in court. They'll also be used to give expert opinions on specialist matters. Typically, a barrister will be a self-employed individual. A role which is often overlooked is the role of a legal executive, often referred to as CILEX, the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives. This is a really important role and makes up a considerable number of lawyers who work for Ashtons and many other law firms. A legal executive is someone who has a specific qualification, undertakes training, usually in their own time, and work whilst they're undertaking their training, and it can take a number of years to build up that qualification to become a legal executive. And in fact, actually a legal executive can now then move on to qualify as a solicitor by taking some further steps as well. And licensed conveyancers, they're a slightly different type of qualification, very specialist and only dealing with residential conveyancing matters, not regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority, regulated by their own organisation. There's a very large group of people working within law firms, referred to as paralegals. And whilst there are a number of different and arguably competing paralegal qualifications, strictly a paralegal can be anyone undertaking legal work without formal legal qualifications and without being a member of one of these professional bodies. The reality is that the distinctions are far less significant than they used to be. We have barristers who are employed and work within our business, and to the outside world probably wouldn't know much difference as to whether they were a barrister or a solicitor. Similarly, we have a large number of legal executives, as I've mentioned, including many of whom are partners within our business as well. So we have partners of our business who are barristers, legal executives, as well as solicitors. And in fact, we have some partners in our business who have none of these formal legal qualifications. And briefly, I ought to just mention that the world of law is changing significantly as we move forward. There's much greater reliance on technology and the creation of new technology. And that's an area which is going to see more and more overlap in the future of what sometimes are very, in a very broad sense, referred to as legal technologists. It's not really a qualification or a title as such, but it's just to highlight that being a lawyer isn't just limited to the traditional roles and titles that you might be familiar with. So what's it like working in a law firm? Most solicitors work in law firms, but many don't. Many will work in other areas of practice. They'll work for in business, working in-house, advising the business that they work for. Others will work in the public sector, a large number working in government, writing laws and regulations and so on. advising the government and the public sector they work for. But obviously Ashton's is a law firm, and most solicitors will work in law firms of one description or another. It's a key thing, really, working in a law firm is all about our client. Everything we do is about delivering a service to our client, understanding what it is that our client wants. And we're all about teamwork. We do not work as individuals, as lone wolves. We work as part of a team. All of our lawyers sit amongst teams of other lawyers, specialists in similar areas of law. But usually a lot of the work that we undertake will involve teams that span different specialisms. We work together and we collaborate. And we work collaboratively with non-lawyers to ensure that we've got the right technology. We're able to communicate effectively with our clients. And we've undertaken all sorts of training and development and so on. So teamwork, absolutely essential. And it's all about analysis. That's really what we do as lawyers, is that we're analysing, obviously, the law, but we're analysing the facts of the case, the facts that the client has presented to us, understanding what's really happened and trying to apply it. Understanding the client, what is it that the client actually wants? What do they need? What are their requirements? It's not just, we're not looking as a business to have lawyers that are just academically brilliant. We need people that can do all of these things and work together. But fundamentally, it comes down to then advising. Our clients come to us as solicitors seeking our advice. They want us to tell them what it is they should be doing, how they should protect their interests, and how it's always ultimately the client's decision as to what they do. We guide and we advise, but clients are always looking for us to give clear direction to them. So briefly to say a little bit about Ashton's Legal, you've seen the video already. We're a leading regional law firm, primarily based in the east of England, but we also have offices elsewhere. We currently employ in the region of 400 people, but we are growing considerably, and we have been growing considerably over the last few years and have plans to continue to do so. We have, as the video showed, a wide range of individual and business clients. Our individual clients being those people writing wills, dealing with probate, and as Sarah Jane does, helping people buy and sell French properties. We have our business clients where we're helping them, as I said, buy and sell businesses, advising on employment law matters, advising on commercial property, whole range of commercial contracts and the like. So I mentioned there are lots of different ways to become a solicitor. Back when I qualified, there were very few different ways. And I mentioned already, this is what I did, the traditional route, law degree, the LPC, the legal practice course, and followed that by a 2-year training contract. And typically, a 2-year training contract will involve usually 3 or 4 seats, as they're often referred to. So you have 6 months or so in different areas of law. So you might spend 6 months working in wills and probate, 6 months working in the commercial team, and so forth. That route still exists to an extent, although it is changing. The LPC is coming to an end and it's being replaced by a different route to qualification, but it is still possible to go to university, get yourself a law degree, do a further qualification, and then enter into a 2-year period of training. But there's much more flexibility, which is really where the apprenticeship comes in as key. Apprenticeship, typically for people that have not got a degree or not got a law degree, and then there's a 6-year apprenticeship, during which time you're working with business and you're training as well at the same time, undertaking the education. But Sarah Jane will take us through that in a lot more detail. As I said, it's also possible, there are other routes through. For example, someone who is qualified as a legal executive can then move on to the next stage and qualify as a solicitor if they wish to do so. Actually, many choose not to. Many choose to the qualifications of a legal executive, and there's no necessarily any real benefit in changing that qualification through to a solicitor. There are strictly some other routes, but I don't want to bog us down with those today. We're really here to talk primarily about apprenticeships. But if you're interested in qualifying as a solicitor, do explore the different routes that are open to you. So at Ashtons, what is it that we're looking for? And this applies to apprentices, solicitors, and everyone working in our business. The most important, passion. It's hard work being a lawyer, and you've got to be interested in it. There has to be an interest in the law, and you've got to have a real drive to want to get stuck in and understand it and get involved. People come from, that drive can come from all sorts of different places. It might be, there are some people that are absolutely passionate about the technical, complex law and just love really understanding that. Other people, it's about problem solving, trying to find ways. As solicitors, we're presented with a problem and the client knows where they want to get to, and our job is to get them and solve the problem to get them to where they want to be. Other people, it's about helping people. It might be that we're helping people that have suffered some terrible injuries and trying to make their lives much better, and we can do that through the law. So the passion can come from all sorts of different places, but it's important that there is the passion there to do it. I mentioned earlier, teamwork, absolutely essential. We need people that can work together. That's what we're looking for within the business. Key part of teamwork is communication. We've got to be able to talk and communicate clearly with our colleagues. We've got to be able to work, as I said already, as part of a team. We've also got to be able to communicate clearly with our clients. What we do, and our knowledge is highly technical, highly specialised, but we've got to communicate that to clients that don't have that understanding. Now, a lot of the skill of being a solicitor is about taking the knowledge that we have, applying it to the fact, and then communicating it clearly to the client, but also to other parties that might be involved. It might be another lawyer that we're who's acting for another party in a matter. It might be dealing with all sorts of other professionals. But communication is key, both verbal and written communication. Finally, we're always looking for people who are business-minded. We do, as solicitors, we are running a business. So, as I said earlier, our passion might be to help people and to deliver that fantastic service to our clients. But we are running a business, it's absolutely critical that all of our staff are very business-focused in the way that we go about running the way that we do. So I hope that was a useful overview, and I'm now going to hand over to Sarah Jane, who can talk more about her experience as a solicitor apprentice and tell you more about the practicalities as to how it works. And I will stop sharing.
Hi there, so I'm Sarah Jane, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Solicitor Apprenticeship. Firstly, just to let you know, yeah, I'm Sarah Jane. So as Claire said at the beginning, I started Ashtons as a legal secretary. I did in fact do a degree beforehand. I did a languages degree, came out, didn't really know what I wanted to do, landed in the French department at Ashtons and thought, do you know what? This is definitely what I want to do. I want to be a solicitor. And yeah, started the solicitor apprenticeship in 2016, which was the first year that they were doing it. And now in 2022, I have qualified as a solicitor. And so, yeah, let me take you through it. First of all, what is the solicitor apprenticeship? Basically, it's an alternative to full-time university. So it's a 6-year-long course during which you'll do a law degree and also the SQE, which are basically practical exams to allow you to become a solicitor. So you spend the first 4 years doing your law degree, pretty much in the same way as a typical person going to university might do. And then after that, the last 2 years are spent doing the SQE. The difference, of course, is that you're working and studying at the same time. So what will happen is that when you enroll on the apprenticeship with the firm, you will spend 4 days a week at work, and then you will have 1 study day per week, either physically in the office or at home, to then carry out your studies, whether that's the law degree at the beginning or then the SQE. So what exactly is it that you're going to study? Again, really, in the same way as a traditional law degree, you're studying the core legal subjects. So these are things like the English legal system, contract law, criminal law, which is always everyone's favourite, tort, which is about wrongdoing, land law and trusts, Potential additional subjects which might be done would be perhaps business law or family law. And the only thing that you wouldn't be able to do is to do elective subjects. I don't know if you've heard of those, but basically that's where you can do additional subjects with a full-time degree at university. Obviously, working and studying at the same time, you don't have quite the same amount of time, so you'll cover the core subjects in depth and end there. You also might do some practical subjects, which aren't always available at university. So really, the apprenticeship is great for the fact that it gets you on that practical route straight away. So it will take all of that academic and theoretical knowledge and implement it during your degree. So you might cover things like conveyancing, which is land law, civil litigation, which is contract and tort, criminal litigation, solicitors' accounts, and also wills and probate. So the big question, when exactly do you have to study? So as I said, there's one study day per week. When I first started the apprenticeship, I used to take that on a Wednesday, which I found really useful because it gave me a good block of 2 days at the beginning of the week doing work, if you will, then my study day, and then the final 2 days. But really, it's a discussion with the firm, with the university, and also, you know, with yourself and with your family, you know, what's best for you. Now, there's about 20 hours studying required per week on the apprenticeship, which does sound quite hefty, given obviously that you are doing a 4-day working week. And so although you have your study day, you do also need to use your free time. So that perhaps becomes a little smaller. Weekend study is always great. If possible, you can sort of squidge it all into one day and then have one day free at the weekend, but you should probably also consider studying at other times. So if you're a morning person, which I am, I would highly recommend getting an hour in before work, which kind of, you know, gets the cogs turning anyway, ready for work. Alternatively, if you're more of a night owl, then definitely look at maybe getting in an hour after dinner, because it will just make your weekend and your study day that little bit more enjoyable, so that you're not frantically packing in the work, and rather you've spread it out nicely, and you're working at a good pace and enjoying yourself. So, who actually provides the tuition? The apprenticeship is linked with a university. Now, when I started, the only provider was City University in London, who were fantastic throughout. But several other providers sort of jumped straight in there the next year. And so there's a large choice now of different universities all across the country who offer, you know, different versions of the solicitor apprenticeship. So it is a long distance course more than anything. So unlike a traditional route where you're actually physically at the university all the time, in general, you tend to go to the university once a month for your tutorials. So you'll usually have subject tutorials for whichever modules you're studying at that point. And then you'll also have a personal tutorial where you can discuss any concerns you might have, whether you feel like you're keeping up with everything, and just how you're doing in general, really. Now, they used to be in person pre-COVID. I used to go to London once a month to City University, which was great. Obviously, during COVID, they moved online. And now I think there's a mixture, and it depends on the university as to whether they've reverted to doing them in person or whether they've kept them online. Given that it's a long distance course, obviously a lot of it is online. And so you'll have your own personal study plan online, which sets out what you need to do when to keep on track. So there's not too much pressure on you to actually have to plan out your day, week, month, so on. It's made clear to you, you know, what you need to achieve in a certain amount of time. And there'll be activities and different tasks for you to do between those monthly tutorials. Why choose the apprenticeship? Obviously, I highly recommend it. I have gained so much experience in my 6 years as a solicitor apprentice at Ashton's that I would never ever have managed to gain had I done the traditional route. Personally, I've loved working and studying. It's been really great to study certain subjects and then implement them into my working life. And I've actually found that being at work and seeing things in practice helps my studying, and studying them helps my work. So it's really been a great opportunity to, you know, to make both things work together. Another reason is that apprenticeship fees are generally paid by your firm. And so unlike the traditional route, you won't have any student debt when you come out of it, which for some people is a real concern. For others, they're less bothered. But you know, on this route, you're going to get your law degree, you're going to do your practical exams, you're going to become a solicitor, and there'll be no debt behind you. Moreover, because you're working, you're actually earning whilst you're learning. So, you know, you can start saving for a car, for a house, for, you know, your great holidays, whatever it is you want to do. And I think also, you know, it gives you a real insight into how a business works, how a law firm works, which really puts you ahead of the game in terms of your peers who have gone the traditional university route. You'll also gain experience in different departments in the law firm so that you can decide where you're best suited to. And again, over 6 years, you know, that gives you perhaps more opportunity to either try more departments or to spend longer in the departments you enjoy, whereas a traditional training contract tends to be 2 years, 6 months in 4 different departments. And I would say it can be quite rigid sometimes. So this gives you, you know, sort of more a more open book to decide how you want to run it. Talking of training contracts, obviously the apprenticeship includes all the training that you need to become a solicitor, and so there's no worry about applying for training contracts, going through the interview process, worrying about being accepted, about whether, you know, this degree that you've slaved away on is actually going to lead to a job. With the apprenticeship, the job's there in front of you. That's pretty much it from me for this section. So what I'll do is I will hand over to my colleague Felicity, who's going to run the next little bit.
Thanks so much, Sarah Jane. Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you for joining us. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Sarah Jane. I've learned so much about the apprenticeship. It's been fantastic. So my name's Felicity Sparks. I'm the Learning Development and Graduate Advisor here at Ashton's Legal. And I look after the learning and development needs of all of our employees across the firm, both in our legal practices and on our business team side. And I'm joined this evening by Sarah Jane and also our colleague Alex. So Alex, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, good evening. My name is Alex Maturoy. I'm a solicitor, apprentice solicitor. I am now in my 5th year of this course. I have already started my training. I'm in my 2nd seat in a different department, and I'm enjoying the process.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alex. Okay, so this is the Q&A portion of our session today. So I'm going to jump straight in with some questions. We did have one question before we get started with Alex and Sarah Jane. So it states the minimum requirements for eligibility. Now, we will consider case-by-case basis if you don't meet those requirements. So we will consider things. So don't put that off. Don't let that put you off applying. Okay, if you do have any other questions while we're going through some of the ones that I want to know about, please do drop them into the chat instead of the Q&A function. We'll pick those up as we go along. So, Alex, I'm going to come to you first of all. Sarah Jane mentioned that this is mostly an online course. So while you are studying, because you're now in your 5th year, have you felt isolated, or is it a really joined up process?
There's not really enough time to feel isolated. I'm in constant contact with the university, with my colleagues. And when I'm not studying, I'm at work and I'm surrounded by amazing people that always offer their support. And I'm always surrounded by people and by emails, Microsoft Teams. Sometimes we go to London and I can see people in person and discuss.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And your experience has been the same, hasn't it, Sarah Jane?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, you meet people on the university course in exactly the same way as you would if you go to, you know, full-time university. And certainly in terms of my experience, it was just me and one other student who were doing the apprenticeship for the first time in the whole country. And yeah, she and I have been through thick and thin. We are still very good friends, and in fact we actually just had our graduation ceremony at the Law Society together just at the beginning of this week. So yeah, you make fast friends for life in exactly the same way.
Congratulations on the Graduation, amazing. And you also, I'm going to pick you up as well, Sarah Jane, you mentioned about the social life aspect. So obviously studying and working at the same time can be really challenging. What impact did that have on your social life?
So to be brutally honest, I would say I definitely had to consider carefully about which social engagements I wanted to take people up on. You know, you won't have every weekend free. You need to just think carefully. I would say allocate yourself one day a weekend to do your studying. Don't do anything else. Don't even think about sort of, you know, going out for breakfast or going out for dinner. Make that your study day, as well as your actual study day, and then have the other day of the weekend free, you know, to go out and see friends, to do whatever it is that you want to do. It's not, your social life doesn't end, but you definitely have to be disciplined about putting the studying in and then also making time for you.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And Alex, I'm going to come to you now. What were some of the other challenges that you found while you were studying? Did you find you had to put in certain practices or anything you were doing to stay focused on your studies while working at the same time?
Yes, you have to be quite organized, and like Sarah Jane said, very disciplined. You have to juggle not just school and work, but also your personal life, your family, depends on your circumstances. And I think sometimes it can become stressful, but if you have people around you that give you advice, and I of course abuse the stationery, and I have so many to-do lists and plans, and that helps a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And do you have anything to add to that, Sarah Jane?
No, I would very much second that. I think, yeah, get involved in the stationery. Always makes you feel better to have nice notes in different colours, all things like that. And yeah, just, you know, if you're a to-do list kind of person, great, make a to-do list, you know, make a goals, and just, you know, keep yourself motivated as you go along.
Yeah, eye on the prize is always a good way to go when you're studying and working. And it's great you said earlier, Sarah Jane, that obviously with the Solicitors Apprenticeship, different to other routes, you do have that potential to earn while you're studying, which is amazing. So this is a real all-round win-win for everyone, which is great. So another question I know that came up recently was, do I get summer holidays like other university students, or do you miss out on that? I'm going to come to you for that, Sarah Jane.
Yeah, no, don't worry, you get your summer holidays. Don't panic about it. So basically the way the courses normally work is they start in September, like a standard university course. You'll have a couple of weeks break over Christmas, which is always much appreciated. And then after Christmas, sort of January through, you'll pretty much work through until June, which is when your exams will be each year. And then after exams, which is sort of mid to late June, you are then free until the beginning of September. And certainly, you know, you can buy your books for the next year in advance. You can, you know, start reading. Personally, that's not my style. I used to totally switch off, enjoy the summer, enjoy being able to say yes to all of the social engagements, and then, you know, sort of buckle up again come September.
Yeah, and to pick up on another point you made earlier as well, I guess one of the benefits of working while you're studying is having access to the professionals who have been through it and done it and experienced everything, and can maybe answer some of the questions that you might both have experienced throughout, and been able to show you in practice some of the skills that you're learning. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got some questions coming up that I'm just going to quickly run through. So we'll leave the applicants one to Sally, because she's going to talk to us in a moment about that. So if you can't access different subjects within the apprenticeship, is your qualification the same as a traditional route university? So I suppose the difference here is that at university you would have those electives, but for the apprenticeship, because it's more compressed, you don't have that option. Is that right, Sarah Jane?
Yeah, basically. I mean, it certainly shouldn't stop you from doing any area of law that you want to do. So, you know, for example, even if you went down the traditional university route, you might, oh, to be fair, I'm an example, I do French law.
That's a great example.
Which certainly wasn't something that I studied. But, you know, if family law was something that you were particularly interested in, then, you know, what you can do is you can make sure that you take a seat in family law. So whilst you won't necessarily have done some of the background reading that you might otherwise have done, there are practical websites that you'll have access to as a student through, you know, the university, that you can do a little bit of extra reading, and, you know, really you gain so much experience on the job actually dealing with cases and dealing with the files and dealing with clients, that I don't think that you would miss out at all in that respect.
Is that your experience too, Alex? Have you been able to pick up things that you might not have otherwise, being immersed in the work?
Yeah, I started working as an administrative assistant, and then I moved as a legal secretary in the family department. So everything I know about family is learned on the job, and that really helped me, because obviously I didn't do family law at uni, but that just gives me an extra. So you can select a seat in family law.
That's
an extra.
Yeah, and these seats we're talking about, as James said earlier, I think might have been Sarah Jane or James, seats are those kind of work-based placements where you're in a team and being surrounded by those people, just picking up those skills. I think that you can't compare that really to the traditional route. It is something that it was a real benefit of the apprenticeship.
I think also, Felicity, sorry if you don't mind me jumping in, I think certainly for me, I didn't realise how much you learn on the job, and I think that's true across all the professions. I think, you know, you go to school and you get told, oh, you know, you need to go to university, you need to get your degree, and I'll be really honest, I came out of university and I thought I was going to walk into some high level, high flying job, and nobody tells you that actually you need to start, you know, at the bottom, if you will, and you learn so much on the job. It's just getting that very, very basic foundation from your studying to then just build and continually build on it at work.
Yeah, and even I've worked with a lot of lawyers who've gone down the traditional route, and once they're qualified, they have to learn so much because suddenly they're a qualified lawyer and they're responsible. They haven't had that exposure necessarily because they've only had their 2-year training contract to learn all those skills, whereas you've got 6 years to really experience it on the job, living, breathing law. So there's a definite difference there that I think you can't, again, put a price on. That practical experience over 6 years is really building you up to be a really solid professional. Fantastic. So one last question we have, well, there's a couple actually. Is there any adaptation of people with disabilities? I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I'm sure there would be. I don't know if either of you have come across any of that, but I know our providers are very equal opportunities, diverse and inclusive. So I'm sure there would be adaptations available.
Yes, and even when you do the SQE and the exams, they have specific facilities to ensure everyone is accommodated.
Fantastic, thanks, Alex. Okay, any other questions? We'll come back to the recruitment questions in a moment once I hand back over to Sally. If you do want to know more about the Solicitors Apprenticeship, there's plenty of information online, and the SQE we've mentioned several times is Solicitors Qualifying Exams. Again, if you want to know more about the SQE, you can go to the Solicitors Regulation Authority website, the SRA website, which will give you lots more information than we can give you tonight. Do you have anything else, Alex or Sarah Jane, that you'd like to add at this stage? Any other thoughts?
Yes, so since I started doing my training seats, I've worked in lifetime planning. I'm working in commercial now, and in lifetime planning, I've been able to go to people's houses in their homes and take instructions and see firsthand how people struggle and what difficulties are. And then when I think about my books and the information contained, sometimes it feels there's a lot of, just talking in words, but now I can relate. And as I'm studying now for my exam, I have images in my head from when I used to go and see clients, and it's completely different.
Yeah, it's that context, isn't it? You can get the answer clearer because you can put it into real life. That's fantastic. Thanks, Alex. Sarah Jane, any final thoughts from you?
So there are actually, I've just seen a note. There's a couple more questions in the chat, which if you're happy for me to,
Yeah, go
to
for
quickly
it.
answer, I will. So first one, as an apprentice, do you have to work at one of our specific offices or can you choose? I would say you need to be aware that you would need to work at the different offices. So Alex at the moment, her base office is Cambridge, but she's currently working at our Bury St Edmunds office. I am based primarily at the Bury St Edmunds office, but I was seconded out to the Norwich office. So really, it depends on your location. Obviously, you know, Ashtons are want to make things, you know, easy for you in terms of which office it's easiest for you to get to, but it also depends eventually on which department you want to qualify into, and where that department is primarily based. So you can absolutely choose to an extent, but you may have to travel to some of the other offices, if that's sort of a fair answer. As to the second one, which is which university will Ashtons use for the September 2023 intake? Felicity, do you want to take that?
No worries. So our provider so far has been City Law, as Alex and Sarah Jane have mentioned. We do review that on a regular basis, and we're discussing that at the moment for the September 23 intake. So we don't have a final answer for that yet. City Law has been a fantastic provider, so they are squaring the running at the moment. Okay, we've got one more here. I have already received my A-levels and have seen that there are training legal PA roles available at my nearest office, which I'm also interested in applying for. Would the solicitor apprenticeship be something that you could do later on after working at the firm for a while? So absolutely, as Sarah Jane said, she started in a different route within the firm. If you want to come and work for the firm in one of the roles that we have, absolutely get a feel for if law is what you want to do. If you're really passionate about it, like James said, passion is really important. It's a long time, 6 years to study. So if you wanted to come into another role, absolutely. The apprenticeship is a rolling thing at the moment, so there's always other routes. And again, as James said, becoming a trained solicitor isn't just the only route in law. I work at a law firm and I'm in learning and development. So there are lots of ways to be involved. So really be open to those opportunities. Okay, fantastic. With that, I'm going to thank you both very, very much for all the information, and thank you everyone for your questions. That's been amazing. If we do get any follow-up questions after the Q&A, we can follow those up after the event today. So thank you everyone. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my lovely colleague, Sally.
Hello, I'm Sally Bavister and I'm the Recruitment Advisor at Ashtons Legal. I'd like to briefly talk to you about the application process for our legal apprenticeship schemes and then next steps for you after this webinar. Please don't worry about trying to remember anything. All of this information is stored on the legal apprenticeship pages on the careers pages of our website. So applications for our apprenticeship scheme for 2023 will open in January 2023, and we would like you to register your interest in this scheme by completing the expression of interest form on the same pages. Then when we open the application process, we will let those of you who have completed that form know. So it's really important you go on and do that as soon as you are able to. Then to help you complete that application form, we will be running an additional webinar around about the same time to give you some hints and some tips and to give you some pointers in how to make your application stand out. What's really important to us at this stage is that we get a sense of who you are, and we'll help you do that by way of this other webinar. So details of that will be posted on these pages, and like this webinar, we would like you to register your interest. So please do keep an eye on the website for that. That just leaves me to say thank you for listening and for joining us. We hope you found this webinar interesting and informative, and hope this has given you an insight into the legal apprenticeship scheme at Ashtons Legal. More importantly, we hope this has helped you make a decision in some way about your future career. Thank you very much.